21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
The way to attract anyone is with what's in it for them, right? That's everyone's favorite radio station, WII-FM. That's not my joke. That's an old radio joke, but it is very true. It's true for listeners, it's true for customers, it's true for everyone. Nobody cares. The number of times that I am working with a client who's an inventor or somebody who has developed some great product, and I look at their ad or their website and it's all about the product, and they've completely missed the mark, right? Because nobody cares about the product. There's a place for that in the sequence, right? Like for some buyers, they'll want to know the details, but at that point they've already decided to buy. You're just sort of helping them justify the purchase by listing out weight or size or any of the whatever thing it is. But definitely the reason why anyone is listening to begin with is because they're looking for some sort of benefit. That's if you can make it, if you can explain how you get them from little Mario to big Mario, then they don't care about the mushroom, whether it's red or white or whatever. All they care about is going from little to big, or from getting faster or going stronger, doing some version of. I think it all comes back to the caveman thing, right? Like we're all essentially some variation of the caveman who's designed to eat as little or burn as few calories as possible, consume as many calories as possible, right? If you can explain how you can help them do it easier, that's always the win. I started off as a copywriter. Even that, it was purely to impress a girl who's now my wife. I was 16 years old, and I wanted to. I mentioned that I was a writer mostly because I knew that would intrigue her, but then I had to make good on it once we actually started dating. So I was like, all right, well, how can I make money writing? I looked around, and the only places around me that were hiring writers were ad agencies. So I just cold knocked on a few doors, and it was actually a pretty compelling story for them. Ad agencies always like seeming cutting edge. And so it was actually fairly easy to become a freelancer as a teenager. And then that led to the web design world. WordPress was just becoming a thing. I had gotten asked, hey, you're young, can you do a website? And I said no at first, but then I found out that it paid $5,000. And I was like, oh, yes, I can do it. And so then I went to a bookstore, bought a book on WordPress, if that tells you how old I am, that's how you would find out information back then. And then started doing the web design thing. And then eventually that led to Time Warner was there after college or during college. And then after college, when they were building out their user-generated platform called iReport, which is CNN iReport. And then went from there to Clear Channel Radio, which was about to launch a little app called the iHeartRadio app, which did so well that the company rebranded itself as iHeartRadio. I was there for over a decade before going out on my own. And now I'm in the MarTech world. We originally built a platform for ad agencies to help them plan and predict their own marketing and advertising. But then we kept getting so many requests for, hey, thanks for building this plan. Can you just do the ads for us? That we very quickly became what we call an ad execution company. So that's where we are. That's where we are now. And we help people get results from advertising, from paid media. Entrepreneurs now are being completely inundated with a whole bunch of shoulds. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. And it becomes incredibly hard to know even where to get the good information. It's an amazing time. It's a miraculous time because for the first time ever in history, you can learn how to do something within a few minutes. You could spend a weekend and learn a brand new skill just by watching YouTube videos and things. And then you can also get an AI assistant to help you actually do it. So it's amazing in a lot of ways. At the same time, I feel like there's a ton of bad advice, and it becomes very hard to know what's right for every business at their own scale. And so I think the new skill is knowing like where to focus on things. And I would say that that is why I love advertising as opposed to other types of marketing. Like marketing in general, marketing is everything from your tagline to your logos to how you position your business, and all of those things. Advertising is when you pay money to get a specific message to a specific audience to do some sort of specific action. That's what advertising is. And it really isn't an art as much as marketing is. Marketing is an art. Marketing is where you want to play around with things. Advertising very much is a science. Like it should be predictable. You should know beforehand, okay, in my industry on whatever platform, on Google or on Meta, etc. What click-through rate should I be getting? If you're getting less than that, your ad isn't doing its job. You need to tweak the creative. If you're getting people to click it, but they're not converting, then you look at the time on site. If they're spending time on site, then you need a better website. If they're not spending time on site, you maybe have a bad audience or you're getting a bunch of junk audience with bot traffic. If it's bad time on site, meaning under 15 seconds. If you're looking at it and they're spending 3 or 4 seconds on your site, that's a bunch of bots. So move platforms or tweak your ads. It really does become very much like fixing an engine. If I come into my or a piece of technology or a piece of hard tech, if I come into my office, which happens every now and then, and I try to print something and my printer just randomly doesn't work, there's this series of steps I know to walk through. Right, one, is it plugged in? Is it getting electricity to it? Is it connected to the computer? Advertising systems are the same way. We look at it and it's like, okay, are people responding to the ad? If they are, if they're responding to the ad at or better than the industry, then that's not the problem. Then it's I can go to the next step. Is my landing page or my conversion piece converting into getting contact information at the rate it should? Once I get people's contact, are they converting into paid at the rate they should? And if not, then that lets you know very clearly, this is the piece I need to work on. So that's why I like advertising, because it does make things objective. And it is the difference between having a business that is doing okay to a business that is truly thriving, is how well it can get new customers. If you're wanting to know how to start from scratch, if you've not run ads before and you're wondering, one, should you run ads at all? Or two, how to even begin running ads? The place I would encourage you to begin, first of all, whether or not you should, is do you know what to do if you suddenly were to get 10 or 15 new customers? If you do know very quickly what you would do, then sure, go ahead and then it's time to start running ads. If you don't know what you would do, or if you have to sort of figure it out from scratch, you're not ready to run ads yet. So, go ahead and get your processes down, first of all. As a matter of fact, this isn't going to show up that well, and it's audio, so it's not going to show up well at all for the audio folks, but I'll hold up this piece of paper. This is the formula I use for when I'm deciding whether or not to invest in a business. It's business success equals people plus process plus product times distribution. Distribution meaning how can that people, process, and product get in front of people. So if you take something like McDonald's, for example, they don't worry about hiring necessarily the best people. No offense to McDonald's employees. There are many great ones. Jeff Bezos, McDonald's employee. There's plenty of McDonald's employees, but that's not their focus. Their focus isn't getting Harvard MBA grads to work there, right? So they don't need the great people. Their process, they're great at. They have a great way of turning out process. Their product, there's nobody over the age of 10 that would say McDonald's is their favorite restaurant, I don't think. So I think objectively their product is okay. But the reason they're successful is that their distribution's huge. You know where they are, you know what they are. I was just traveling internationally. I know what a McDonald's is going to provide. I don't have to look up reviews or anything else. I know it's going to be fine. So distribution is the multiplier of those other things. even if you had the best process in the world and the best people in the world, if you don't have a good way of getting that people, product, and process in front of folks, then it doesn't matter. And if you are great at getting it in front of folks, then you can actually do well enough to make those other things continuously better. So if you have a, let's say 5 out of 10 or above on people, product, and process, then it's time to start running ads. So to get that distribution. Advertising is just simply a way to cheat at distribution. If I was setting up an ice cream stand, I'd want to make sure that I'm somewhere that has foot traffic because that's my distribution, right? Think of it like that. In terms of when you're starting out running ads, the way to begin is to take a piece of paper and write on there, who do you want to reach? So who do you help? Who do you serve? And then what do you want those people to do? Whether that's book an appointment with you, buy something from your website, etc. And then what would you need to say to those people to get them to do that thing? That little piece of paper makes all the difference in the world when you're actually running the ads, because that's what influences, I get asked a lot of questions, things like, should I be on LinkedIn or should I be on Facebook? Should I be on traditional media or should I be on Spotify or whatever? And the answer to that really depends on who you're trying to reach. If I was a catheter company like you see all the time, or trying to sell gold coins, then broadcast media makes perfect sense because I'm trying to reach a target audience of 65 and above, and it makes perfect sense. And it's got mass appeal to that group, then by all means. But if it's going to outperform anything you did on any other channel. So there's no one answer to that, but there is an answer for who your audience is. So that's why it's important to know who's your audience, what do you want them to do, and then what would you say to them. That's what helps answer so many questions and debates on which platform is better. So that's how I would start out. Draft was founded with the idea that of making dreams come true through advertising. Advertising is, and I chose that language for the company intentionally because I wanted to form a company that both made that true internally and externally. Coming out of the corporate world, although I had personally great experiences in the corporate world, I didn't want to put people under a bunch of heavy non-competes, and I didn't want to put people under these heavy burdens of specific office hours or times. We have an office. Several of our people choose to work out of our office. We don't make that a requirement for anyone. I don't have a non-compete. We have anti-poaching rules. In other words, don't take our clients from us internally, but standard business protection. But outside of that, no, by all means, I encourage my people to have side hustles, to have their own dreams and aspirations. And so I wanted it to be true internally, and then I also wanted it to be true in terms of with our clients. My father was a business owner. His business failed when I was young. So I got to see what happens to a person when their business crumbles. I don't ever think of a business as a non-human entity. No matter how big a company is, there are real people who are tied to that revenue and to that money. And if they don't do a good job getting customers, if they don't do a good job of getting their message out there, that has real world implications to actual human beings. And so I wanted to make it so that advertising is treated as the objective science that it is. Things I can't stand in our industry were things like, oh, you need to give it 3 months at least before it works. Well, there's some truth to that in that it can take time of testing different audiences and things. But if you're not testing different stuff, it's not going to just magically work 3 months from now. So a lot of times that's just used to get extra money or get extra time. And those kinds of things I couldn't stand. So I wanted to create a place that really made it objective. Again, originally the idea was we created a MarTech that made it objective and then we would sell that. But once we realized that no, people actually need help doing the ads themselves, we still take that step of figuring out what objectively would be successful first, because then that gives us a report card on every stage along the way after that of, is this working? Yes or no? And if it's not working, which piece is falling down? It helps from a client retention standpoint because it allows us to actually fix campaigns. But even more importantly than that, it does help us give very real feedback on helping to create a better world. I don't think that any uh, businesses or organizations designed to solve some sort of real world problem out there. Sometimes it can be a trampoline park whose sole mission in life is to make people's afternoon better, right? Better for an afternoon. And that's great. Sometimes it's a car dealer, who uh, we like to think, they're trying to do a good job of making the car buying experience better. But no matter what it is, uh, and we also work with a number of government organizations, like we do anti-smoking campaigns and those types of things. Um, Regardless of what the thing is that we're doing, the I don't think any organization starts out trying to do harm in the world, and so we want to help them do those good things. I'm a huge believer of science in every aspect of the word. Like I do science is just a Latin word for knowledge, right? So I do think that that the world is a better place with the more knowledge we can have about things. And so I do like, even though I started off as a copywriter, which is often considered uh, the an art form. It was actually early on. This is going to sound self-serving because it mentions an award, but I won an award. I won the South Carolina Broadcaster Association Star Award still as a teenager for an ad campaign I did for this bail bond company, and uh, that client canceled, totally unrelated to each other. But I asked the question because I was like, "Oh, why did that client cancel?" And I was literally 17, I think, at this point. And so I asked the account management team, "Hey, why did that client cancel?" And they said, "Well, they weren't getting results." That bothered me so much that I had an award for a campaign that didn't produce results. That stuck with me, I think, from that point forward, because it just showed me how broken the whole system is, right? Like there shouldn't be awards for campaigns that don't perform, right? Like they weren't buying it so that some 17-year-old could get a better job later in his life. They were buying it so that they could help more customers. And that is that's something that I think every business really needs to operate from a space of facts and knowledge. There's always guesswork. Entrepreneurship is guesswork always, right? Like we have to move forward. We're making future predictions based off of past information. So there's always some guesswork to that, but there should be as little as possible. And we should know as much as possible before we sort of take that next step. I think that it's irresponsible while I like moving fast and breaking things, I don't think you can't do that in every area of business. So let's leave that for the research and development arm. I think the customer acquisition arm, I don't think you want to move fast and break things. I think as much as you can, you want to make that a predictable science. I'm a big believer in what's called stakeholder capitalism as opposed to shareholder capitalism, meaning that we use a lot of AI and we use a lot of tech-heavy products in our business, which has a heavy environmental load. So one of the first decisions we made was we're a paperless company. We use these tablets and things. We also pay a carbon offsetting company to offset our carbon footprint as a company each month, because I think our company can't exist 100 years from now if we're struggling to have clean water and if we're struggling to have so I do think that there's a certain amount of responsibility that every business has. We pay our local taxes. We don't. I didn't do research on which state is better to incorporate in to get a lower tax burden and all those types of things, because I enjoy driving on roads that don't have potholes, and I enjoy, if I call the police, they'll answer, right? And so I think if I'm going to use the taxes, if I'm going to use the stuff, I should have to pay the stuff. And so I do think that every business has a responsibility, not only to the shareholders, not only to the owner and the owners, but also to those that are involved, which ultimately incorporates most of the world, right? We have a responsibility to my vendors to make sure that we pay on time and that we pay promptly. We have a responsibility to certainly to our employees, but we also have a responsibility to the families of my employees to make sure that they're provided for. And so I think every business should try their best to think in terms of who are we impacting. If I'm going to use heavy AI, then I also need to think about the environmental cost of that as well and see what we can do to make that as light a burden for the rest of the planet as possible. One of the things that we can do is, for any business, we'll do a marketing audit, which essentially analyzes the space. In other words, if whatever category you're in, we'll analyze who are the top performers in your area, what are they doing, and how does that compare with what you've got going on, and then we'll also make a recommendation. Essentially everything that the draft tool was originally designed to do when we were selling it as a SaaS, we will put all of that together so that within 24 hours of you emailing us, we'll be able to get you a full marketing audit with recommendation at no charge. All you got to do to get that is just email us at info@draftadvertising.com. That's info@draftadvertising.com. Shoot us an email, include your website, and we'll get that turned right around.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.